seen this story yet this morning, you need to stop what you're doing and take a look. The images will stun you. Up to 50 people are reportedly showing up to the tent city each week. Many of them have lost their jobs and consequently their homes.
Sacramento city leaders promised to enforce no camping rules outside City Hall.
More than a dozen homeless campers and advocates here illegally camping on the steps of City Hall, and that has everybody talking, including candidates for mayor.
No, I have no problem with law enforcement doing their job, but this all misses the point.
We've heard about one of the homeless campers with a broken arm. Any word from Sacramento police about what happened there?
The police saying that basically they are not aware of anything involving any report of any serious injuries despite the weekend arrest.
Please gather your belongings and leave the area.
Over 1,000 men, women, and children sleep on the streets of Sacramento every night. All of the emergency shelters are full and daily turn away those in need. These homeless citizens have nowhere to sleep at night but under a tree, on a park bench, or if they're lucky, in a car. When a decent place to set up a tent is found, somewhere out of the way, and the neighboring industrial businesses are friendly, a community develops. This community had about 100 tents. That's 10% of those sleeping on the streets. That's 10% who aren't sleeping in a business entryway or under a bush downtown. At least, while together, there is some semblance of safety and pooling of resources and helping each other out. But what does the city do? Do they help? No. They cite City Code Section 12.52.030. No camping allowed in Sacramento. So now, these people who have nowhere to go, who are just trying to stay warm and safe, are criminals. What you're seeing is the city's response. Send police officers en masse to forcefully, if necessary, remove these desperate people. 40 officers to pack up the only belongings of these tent dwellers in gray garbage bags. 40 officers to tell these homeless campers to move on, down the river, to another spot, so they can do it again in a couple of months. It's an endless game of cat and mouse. The police know it, the campers know it, the news crews know it, even the city council knows it. We've been playing this game of round robin for decades in Sacramento. It's nothing new. It's just how we do it. It's how it's always been done. But why? Why must this be the way it's done? Why must we shuffle people around endlessly? Couldn't we set aside a small space where people could roll out a sleeping bag and pitch a tent while on the waiting list for an emergency shelter, or transitional housing, or even perhaps a real apartment? Sure, there would be real challenges to overcome, but can't Sacramento, the capital city of the largest state economy in the country, find a way to overcome those challenges? The people of our great city have overcome tremendous challenges before. Fires, floods. We even raised the entire city up a whole story, building by building by building, with nothing but the sweat and tears of our own flesh and blood. Sacramento has some of the greatest thinkers, the most creative problem solvers, and the most generous citizens anywhere. We can overcome any challenges. We can treat all people with dignity and respect. Tonight, many people will be sleeping outside. Where will you sleep tonight?
Think about us that are out here, all throughout America. More and more of these camps are popping up everywhere. So if we can come united, because America's starting from the ground, You got to have a place to start. You can't just start on the top. You have to have a base where you're safe, where you can keep your belongings, so that you can get yourself together and come up. So all around the world, Butterfly's going to fly, and I'm going to help people everywhere I go.
I am 23 years old. I just had a birthday, and it's tough living out here in the streets because every day you wake up, you don't know what you're going to do, and you don't know how you're going to eat, how you're going to clothe yourself. I mean, there are shelters, there are parks, teen center, but you can only go there for so long.
I was working where I was living, and due to extended family of theirs being unemployed and in another state and unable to keep their place, we exchanged. They hired them instead of me. Through a series of events, I ended up out here.
I'm on parole. I went to prison a couple years back, and because of the resources that have been cut, thanks to Jerry Brown and Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's a lot of parolees that are out on the river. Not having a brick and mortar over my head, I've not let it defeat me. I go to school full time, I volunteer full time, I draw, I'm a tattoo artist, so other than worrying about where am I going to sleep, it's just another obstacle that I will overcome.
I'm 60 years old. I'm too old to work. As they say, I was a carpenter, and I'm too young to get Social Security. You know, you have to get that at 62. So I'm betwixt in between. I've been living out here for maybe about 6-7 months now. I slept on the streets, and it's illegal to sleep on the streets. It's illegal to sleep behind a dumpster. It's illegal to just be poor. I try to help everybody within the whole area because it's not an individual thing of homelessness, it's a unified thing. They're raising $367 million for the Sacramento Kings, but they won't raise $1 for the homeless. And we're trying to find a way that we can have a stable place to live, and they wouldn't give us not $1. Isn't that something? And we have worked in this system. We paid taxes. We had jobs. We had homes. We had cars. We had bank accounts. But then, you know, as what they call it, recession. Isn't that something? Recession hit us. Now we can't do those things. And now they're trying to sweep us up under the rug.
You still have faith.
Oh, yes,
that's
sir.
That's wonderful. That's
yes,
wonderful.
Sir. Yes, sir, because doubt looks down. Worry looks around, but faith looks up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep looking.
I've been out here since I was off and on since I was 19. Every day it's a struggle is everybody like these guys messing with us, telling us we gotta move. Now I gotta face the facts where I gotta find another place to live. I gotta leave my uncle and my aunt down there. I'm not gonna stay here to go to jail over something that's ridiculous and lose my stuff. This is a 2-bedroom tent. This is a bedroom. Holes are broke. You know what I mean? I don't usually live like this, but they're making us leave.
I honestly, I'm done with living homeless. Sacramento's cool and all, but harassing the homeless ain't cool. They expect us to be indoors, right? They expect us to have jobs. How are we supposed to do that when you keep on making us move?
I'm only 23. I might not be too understanding of this yet, but I'm pretty sure this isn't how America's supposed to work. You know, they push us out into the holes, and then they kick us out of them and drive us all into one spot, and then they try to tell us to go again. And they're telling us to go anywhere, but when we go, 2 days later from now, we're going to get another camping ticket, we're going to get thrown in jail, harassed, all our shit's going to get tossed out.
They come around to wherever you camp, and they give you a 48-hour notice usually, and a camping citation. I got like 5 of them at this point. And what they'll do is they'll track me down, they'll give me a notice and a citation, and I'll have to keep moving. Therefore, I can't do anything else to improve my situation.
The camping ordinance in Sacramento is ridiculous. It's silly, you know, and for city council and me to work together and other leaders of the community to work together to come to some solution, because there is solutions. Everybody just has to step up to the table and be grown about it and approach the issue instead of trying to sweep it under the rug.
This is normal. This has been going on for the past, since the 30s. It's been going on recently for the past 15 years. It's not any different than any other day. It's just that the public doesn't know what really goes on. They see what the social media wants them to see, as far as the mainstream media, like the news. They don't see that we're people like everybody else, that most of us have fallen on hard times. Most of us are sick and ill mentally, or they have an addiction problem. And with the resources, there's no way to handle that and overcome that because there's no money for it. We're human like everybody else, and that we breathe the same air, drink the same water, and we're not any different than someone working in a high-rise living in Rockland and someone living out here.
There was a guy out here who supposedly went to his chemotherapy today. He couldn't go.
I'm supposed to do chemotherapy at 11 o'clock. I can't do that.
So what if his cancer eat up on him a little more because he couldn't go get his chemo? They're arresting us. They're putting us in jail because we are homeless. I'm not going nowhere. They'll have to drag me off. I'm not going to be violent. They put the cuffs on me. I'm going to go free.
You're in violation of illegal camping, which is Sacramento City Code Section 12.52.030. You're hereby ordered to immediately pack all of your belongings and leave. If you fail to do so, you will be arrested forthwith. At this time, will you comply? Okay. All right, Eli, I'm going to put handcuffs on you. Go ahead and turn around. So what we're going to do is we're going to inventory your property. Okay, it will be stored for you. You'll be given a receipt. You'll be notified where you can pick up your property. It won't be there for you. But because this is a criminal case, you will not be able to get it until it's adjudicated, which is going to be about 3 months. I don't know
See you soon, Brother Eli.
So once we get done processing this, yes, we'll be given. All right, you good? Hang tight for just a little bit. Let me see if I can win it out.
Any final words, Eli?
This is what happened to poor people.
That's right, David. And if you haven't seen this story yet this morning, you need to stop what you're doing and take a look. The images will stun you. Up to 50 people are reportedly showing up to the tent city each week. Many of them have lost their jobs and consequently their homes. NBC's Michael Oku joins me now live from Burbank. Michael, you know, a lot of people commenting on this on Twitter to us this morning. Jane Coe wrote that she saw this morning. She said it's a very sad and an upsetting state of this country's affairs. I know a lot of people who are going to watch your report right now are going to be surprised by what they see and hear.
Oh, they're certainly going to be surprised if they haven't seen these images before, Monica. I mean, it is awfully bad, and there's no sign that it's getting better anytime soon. And there's a terrible irony in all of this. About a century and a half ago, this area around Sacramento was basically the center of the gold rush. Prospectors pitching their tents along the banks of the American River in order to strike it rich. And today what we see is regular Americans pitching their tents, sometimes in the shadows of downtown Sacramento's skyscrapers, in the hopes of basically buying more time, or simply because they just don't have any other choice. The shelters in and around the town are absolutely overflowing with people. We understand from authorities that there's some 1,500 or so people living in these 10 cities, and as you mentioned, with 50 newcomers joining them essentially every single week. The images, as we look at this, people making their lunch or their dinners, are absolutely striking. What you're seeing, for the most part, are regular middle-class Americans, many of them who had lived from paycheck to paycheck, down on their luck when they lost their job and then their car and then their home, a pattern that we have seen repeated across the country. And many of them now living in these shanty towns that are reminiscent, as you can imagine, of what we saw, at least the images we saw from the Great Depression. NBC was able to talk to some of these folks who were living without any electricity, no running water. A bottle of water for many of these people is about a mile and a half by walking at the local convenience store or at the gas station. And many of these folks worked in the construction business. They're tile setters or truck drivers. And as you know, that business has completely dried up. So with 1 in 10 out of every Californian out of work right now, and the foreclosure rate still skyrocketing, you have to wonder how many more people are going to make the decision that they're going to have to resort to living in conditions like this, Monica.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, startling images, but important to see. Michael Oku, thank you so much. And
what we're being told, of course, is that these are the same kinds of images that we saw during the Great Depression. People basically living in these tent cities, these shanty towns with no electricity and no running water.
It's pretty devastating to suddenly move into a tent, and you have to learn a lot of new things. It's kind of like being in the frontier days, you know, everything is...
We are beginning tonight with the state's latest budget hole, this time a $2 billion budget gap. And the governor had a big announcement today to cut another $1 billion from the state budget, including $100 million each from both the UC and the Cal State systems, $100 million in cuts to in-home care services, $248 million in cuts to K-12 school bus funding. Tonight, Action News reporter Sherakina Shams has our top story from Sacramento.
The governor was being an optimist today.
We're on the road to recovery.
The schools and agencies facing the cuts he's making.
Kids won't come to school. They can't have school without transportation, so it's unsustainable.
Took a different tone.
The school districts have taken almost $20 billion in cuts over the last 3 years. Many school districts can't cut any further.
$1 billion in cuts, he said, is not as bad as what was anticipated, more than $2 billion.
We're not Greece. We're not in a hole that we can't climb out of. And we are climbing out of the little ditch we fell in over the last couple of years.
Ashley might be able to help you out. The biggest part of the cuts will come from colleges, some already talking about raising fees because of today's announcement. Another large chunk will come from school children, specifically their school bus services. Also being cut, Medi-Cal and services for the disabled. All of these cuts are virtually automatic. The budget that passed last year included trigger cuts in case the hoped-for revenues didn't materialize. Some of those did, and some didn't.
It shows that the gimmicks in the budget before, yet again, have given us a problem in California. And now, their own idea, the trigger, will be invoked. That is what has got to happen right now.
That's Sherakina Shams from Sacramento. So here's what you need to know about these trigger cuts, as they're called. The state, $2.2 billion below last year's revenue projection.
That means $1 billion in trigger cuts will go into effect beginning in January. But even still, the governor's office projects the deficit for 2012 through 2013 at $10 billion. And the governor's already proposed a ballot initiative for next November aimed at addressing that shortfall. It includes a 1.5% hike in the sales tax and a 2% hike in the income tax on people making over $250,000 a year. Again, the governor hoping to get that on the November 2012 ballot.
A recent poll from the Public Policy Institute of California shows 60% of Californians actually support the governor's tax plan. 57% believe lawmakers are misspending taxpayer money. So what do you think? You can let us know your thoughts by going to our Facebook page at facebook.com/KSBW8.
Sacramento city leaders promised to enforce no camping rules outside City Hall, but tonight homeless campers are still gathered there, and there are new threats being made by people claiming to be with the hacker group Anonymous. KCRA3 Sherakina Shams reports.
Greetings, City of Sacramento. We are the Resistance. It has come to our attention that you continue to deny the homeless of your city their basic human rights, as well as rights guaranteed by Amendment 8 of the United States Constitution, as stated by the Justice Department in its filing and found on justice.gov. It should be uncontroversial that punishing conduct that is a universal and unavoidable consequence of being human violates the 8th Amendment. Sleeping is a life-sustaining activity, i.e., it must occur at some time in some place. If a person literally has nowhere else to go, then enforcement of the anti-camping ordinance against that person criminalizes her for being homeless, Many homeless individuals are unable to secure shelter space because city shelters are over capacity or inaccessible to people with disabilities, said Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Vanita Gupta, head of the Civil Rights Division. Criminally prosecuting those individuals for something as innocent as sleeping, when they have no safe, legal place to go, violates their constitutional rights. Moreover, enforcing these ordinances is poor public policy. Needlessly pushing homeless individuals into the criminal justice system does nothing to break the cycle of poverty or prevent homelessness in the future. Instead, it imposes further burdens on scarce judicial and correctional resources, and it can have long-lasting and devastating effects on individuals' lives. No one wants people to sleep on sidewalks or in parks, particularly not our veterans, or young people, or people with mental illness, said Director Lisa Foster of the Office for Access to Justice. But the answer is not to criminalize homelessness. Instead, we need to work with our local government partners to provide the services people need, including legal services, to obtain permanent and stable housing. Your actions on the night of January 2nd, including the arrest of 7 activists, is unacceptable. The confiscation of tents and bedding further puts your homeless in harm's way. Therefore, we ask politely that an immediate moratorium on enforcement of the Do Not Rest statute be imposed while interested parties negotiate a solution. During this 60-day period, a good faith effort will be made to accommodate the homeless in your city. We applaud the efforts you have made to provide for some of your homeless population. There is more work to be done. Should you decide our request is untenable or refuse to honor it, we will bring the formidable talent of Anonymous to your city. We would prefer to work on solutions. You have our attention, and therefore the attention of the world. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. United as one. Divided by zero. Expect us. Operation Right to Rest. Engaged.
Protesters walked into the lobby of City Hall.
No justice! No peace!
And continued to camp outside.
Homelessness is not a crime!
Homeless campers said they expected to have their belongings taken by noon today. Because of this, a 24-hour notice given to them by police yesterday that warns against carrying camping gear here.
There aren't resources to bathe, to provide bathrooms and other things that are fundamental to camping and sustaining camping. That's not what cities are about.
Yet the camps remain, even after the notice. A spokeswoman for Sacramento Police could not tell us why campers haven't been removed. Chris Vellucci, who advises protesters on their legal rights, says he has an idea why.
Because there were too many news cameras here. We fully expect that if something like this happens, and we do expect it to happen, that's why they gave the notice. It'll happen sometime after 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Greetings, City of Sacramento.
Meanwhile, people who claim to be with the hacker group Anonymous say they'll take action if the city enforces its camping ordinance.
If they don't stop arresting the homeless people out here, then we're going to come and do a cyber attack.
Against this backdrop, city leaders today listed things they've done and money they've spent to fight homelessness.
The answer is long-term supportive housing. The answer is housing first. The answer is not enshrining this into our streets by making camping okay. That is not a solution to homelessness.
City leaders have offered numerous services, they say, including rides to homeless shelters to the people who are still gathered here outside City Hall tonight. But the homeless tell us often when they arrive at those shelters, they find out there's no room, the shelters are full. Live here at City Hall tonight, I'm Charlotte Shams, KCRA 3 News.
Cheryl, thanks.
It's a political question. We need the gumption. We need the incentive. We need the conviction of our politicians to say homelessness is not a crime. We're going to deal with it.
The question of politics in the homeless camping controversy playing out at Sacramento City Hall.
The candidates for mayor are speaking about the weekend arrest of several homeless campers. KCRA3's Mike Lurie is live at City Hall tonight with the latest on that protest. Mike.
That's right, Brian. Sacramento police over the weekend have been very actively enforcing the ordinance that affects these folks behind me. More than a dozen homeless campers and advocates here illegally camping on the steps of City Hall, and that has everybody talking, including candidates for mayor. The homeless are back at City Hall, and their protest continues despite the weekend arrests.
Please gather your belongings and leave the area.
They say of at least 4 homeless campers.
To get us out of here because we're an eyesore.
Mohammed Abu Ghanem claims he broke his arm while police enforced Sacramento's anti-camping ordinance. The city did offer shelter for the campers, but Abu Ghanem says that's not an option for everyone.
Some people can't get in because they're susceptible to getting sick. They have anxieties of being around other people.
The homeless are supported by civil rights attorney Mark Marin, who a few years ago won a $2 million settlement from the city over the confiscation of homeless property. Marin tells KCRA3 he plans to sue the city again over what he says is an unconstitutional anti-camping ordinance.
It doesn't make any sense to treat homeless people that way. We need wiser decisions. We need a more enlightened leadership. And we need the public to come forward and say, this is idiotic.
The homeless protest has now become a hot-button political issue. And today, mayoral candidate Tony Lopez said he supports the city's enforcement of the no camping ordinance.
What they're doing is actually illegal. So, the cops have to be cops. It doesn't, just because you're homeless doesn't mean the laws don't affect you.
Sacramento Mayor Pro Tem Angelique Ashby is also running and supports the city's ordinance, calling it an effective tool for outreach to the homeless.
What we're really trying to do in Sacramento, I think, is not accept sleeping outside as an acceptable form of living. We really want to get people into housing, and that requires that we're able to talk to them.
And former Senate President Darrell Steinberg, also a candidate for mayor, told us his position.
I have no problem with law enforcement doing their job, but this all misses the point. The real point is we must have a policy in the city of Sacramento and in our greater region that puts housing first.
And another candidate for mayor, Russell Rawlings, you can see him there seated in the wheelchair, said that he wants this ordinance to be repealed. Meanwhile, tomorrow the state legislature returns to the state capitol, and they have in mind a budget proposal directly that's going to impact state housing and homelessness, they say, statewide. We'll have more on that, of course, tomorrow. Reporting live from City Hall, Mike Lurie, KCRA3 News.
So, Mike, we've heard about one of the homeless campers with a broken arm. Any word from Sacramento police about what happened there?
Yes, we talked actually to the city about that, and they gave us a statement from the city of Sacramento, the police, saying that basically they are not aware of anything involving any report of any serious injuries. In fact, they videotaped all the proceedings all the way to the point where the folks were booked in the Sacramento County Jail.
All right, we'll keep following this probably for the next couple of days. Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Elsewhere tonight, the debate over housing the homeless in Sacramento County continuing tonight. The move by Sacramento bounty hunter to offer a plot of his land as a homeless camp has nearby residents very concerned.
Leonard Padilla let them set up on vacant land he owns in Natomas near Del Paso and El Centro, right next to a community on Bayou Road. Some residents living near that lot now have concerns about their safety. Others told us they don't have a problem with them. Over the weekend, dozens of homeless people were evicted from an empty lot in downtown Sacramento because it's on private property. Now Padilla is inviting the homeless to camp on his land just outside the city limits. Some parents worry if their kids are safe.
I understand that the situation that these people are in unfortunate, but my main concern is the safety of the kids, and it only takes one person to do something wrong to one child, and that's too much.
They can say what they want, but we're not all bad people.
Camping on the lot is also against the county's zoning code. Officials say the offer to camp here is not very helpful. Homelessness is a serious problem in Sacramento County. The latest estimates are that there are 4,367 people who experience homelessness over the course of a year. About 30% meet the definition of chronically homeless. Sacramento County says it has a total of 3,786 beds in its shelters.
And if you thought the homeless were just passing through, you'd be wrong. Half have lived in Sacramento County for more than 15 years. 97% have been here 5 to 15 years, just 3% have lived in Sacramento County for less than 5 years. So is the city now doing enough to help out the homeless? And that is the question we've been asking our viewers to answer tonight. According to our web poll, unscientific as it is, 65% of our respondents don't think the city is doing enough about the problem, while 35% think that the city is doing all it can to help the homeless. We should point out we are not just focusing on the city. The homeless issue extends to the county and across the nation as well. And you could continue to vote and send in your comments about this problem in our daily extra session.
Here tonight with us, pardon me, Leonard Padilla and Diane Luther, who's with the Ending Homelessness Initiative. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Leonard, what were you trying to say with this deal?
Well, I don't believe I should have to wait as a long-time 40-year resident in Sacramento for a 10-year plan to take effect to take care of the people that are homeless.
What do you think the city should be doing that they're not doing?
Well, open the shelters and open some of the empty buildings that the city has control over and let the people in for the winter. It's cold out there when winter strikes Sacramento. The summer's decent, but the winter's awful cold. And then they shouldn't chase those 30, 40 families off that corner over here on Richards. They weren't bothering anybody there, and that corner is certainly not being used for anything productive right now or in the near future. Definitely not this
You're
winter.
not suggesting we should leave those people living in squalor in that neighborhood?
Well, one person's squalor in another person's home.
Oh, it's all garbage and feces. It's terrible.
You can go into houses sometimes where the people in upper middle class America have been doing drugs and all that, and I can show you feces and I can show you terrible bedrooms and all sorts of messes. And the houses are $600,000, $700,000 homes.
All right, Ms. Luther, Leonard says that the city or the county and not doing enough to help out the homeless. What is being done? You have a 10-year
Well, what
program.
is being done, Dave, is that the city and county have worked together, begun to work together just in the last couple of years to get homeless people off of the street. It's really not about what field you sleep in or whether you're in a shelter or not in a shelter. The solution to homelessness is housing. The city and the county have adopted what's called a 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness. And what that's about is developing housing opportunities, permanent housing opportunities, not shelter, not 90-day treatment programs, not tents, but real honest-to-gosh permanent housing with services, alcohol and drug treatment, health services, the kinds of things that people need, case management, living skills.
All right. I guess some of this issue is, when you talk about the homeless, in some cases you're not really talking about a homeless issue, you're talking about a drug and or alcohol addiction problem and mental instability. And for example, we have a viewer email here. Let me just read this to you. Our successes and failures are related to our choices. Hearing the homeless say they have no choice but to live in a camp is untrue. They just need to make better choices. Your response to that?
Well, what you say is true, Dave. Many of the homeless are people who are dealing with disabilities of some sort, whether it's mental illness, physical illness, a chronic illness, or alcohol or drug addiction.
So, and if that's the case, how are you going to provide them housing, which they don't really want to live in the first place?
They absolutely want to live in it. We opened a central intake capacity a couple of months ago, and we are overwhelmed with people who want to be housed, who are desperate to come in off of those fields and off of the streets. So far, we've been able to house about 80 to 90 of the chronically homeless people who have these kinds of disabilities. Takes time to develop the housing opportunities, but that's the road we're on.
Leonard, it sounds like at least we got a plan now.
Well, they got a plan, but it's a 10-year plan, like she said. She's been here in Sacramento for a little over a year from Portland, and at the same time, we've got 30 or 40 families being chased out of a field over here that, in my opinion, they weren't bothering anybody. Maybe it's an unsightly tent row when you go by there, but let's face it, people live in different conditions at times. When I was 6, 7 years old in Huron, we lived in tents out in the field, and we tried to be the first family there to pick cotton so that we could get the one that had 4 foot of plywood on the side. I mean, that was luxury for us instead of having a tent that had canvas all the way to the bottom.
You know, some are saying, Leonard, that you just want to keep your name out front politically here.
Don't put me on the air then, Dave.
By putting these people in this location, that was illegal in the first place. And Roger Dickinson, the county supervisor, says you're not really being helpful.
Roger Dickinson don't know what he's talking about, otherwise he wouldn't have a homeless problem. He's the one that's posturing himself for running for mayor. Why don't he get out here and give us a solution?
Leonard Padilla, Ms. Luther, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
First name is Anthony, last name is Paul, H.M.L. Okay. And how long have you been homeless for?
For about 3 years.
Okay, so where do you live right now? I was just residing in the Salvation Army, homeless shelter, 1200 North B Street. Now, of course, I'm now in the Volunteers of America that I just transitioned from on the 7th, Friday.
How did you become homeless?
How did I become homeless? Okay. Well, for me, it was a situation to where Child Protective Services came into my life. They caused some things to happen, which then caused me to lose my trucks. And of course, after I lost my trucks, it brings in my revenue to pay my bills. But however, once they intervened in my life, it caused my baby mama to do certain things. And of course, as time went on, then of course, that's when eventually my apartment was gone. My vehicles was gone, so eventually without my vehicles I can't make money. So, which then put me in a position to find myself here.
Okay. What was your occupation prior to being homeless?
Excuse me?
What was your occupation prior to being homeless?
I was doing hauling, landscape and moving. That's what I was doing, working for myself. Of course, with my trucks, but of course now that I don't have that, of course, I'm no longer doing that at this point.
Okay. Now, do you have an addiction? It could be drugs, it could be money, it could be women. Just...
I don't have no addiction, no drug addiction, no alcohol addiction, no mental health problems. Just other than as far as I guess some folks can say that I'm addicted as far as reading.
Okay.
So if that's an addiction, then there it is. So.
Okay. What's the hardest part of the day for you?
The hardest part of the day for me, is waking up and seeing what I'm surrounded by on a day-to-day basis. That's kind of like the hardest thing for me.
What are your views on spirituality?
Spirituality. My views on spirituality. Nothing negative.
Okay.
Positive. I'm spiritual. I sing gospel songs.
Okay.
So there it is.
Yeah, how do you get money throughout the day? What's your hustle? What do you do?
Being that I'm a college student at American College, of course, part of my major or my goal is to become a paralegal legal assistant. Working under the supervision of an attorney. However, as far as money that I make on the side, it will be through my small business. Although I don't have no business office or location, but of course, even right here could be actually my place of business. But of course, when someone comes to me needing a service, of course, 9 times out of 10, they're not able to pay up front. But however, they eventually do. That's how I make my money, and also I do also go out and apply for jobs. Command Center, which is over there by the state fair. Yeah, so I apply for jobs for more income.
Do you still keep in contact with your family members, and what do they think about you being homeless?
Yes, I do stay in contact with my family members, though they are dispersing out of the county, out of the area. How they feel about me being homeless, they don't like the fact that I'm homeless. I don't like the fact that I'm homeless. But however, they attempted to want to get me to come and stay with them. But me being a man, I just can't kind of allow stay with them because the thing is I need to be out here for me. So I believe being out here for me would allow me, and just like anybody else, I hope, would allow this situation that they wake up to every day to be a reality check for them to say, okay, is this the life I want to live, or is this the life that I don't? You know, so we all have choices.
What are or were some of your hobbies prior to being homeless?
Hobbies, basically just I sing. That's kind of like one of my hobbies, just singing or just.
Oh, you sing?
Yes.
Can you get a little sample? A little, you know.
Oh, a sample.
A little anything. Ain't nobody watches me and the camera.
Somebody's watching. This camera. Nah, but most of them I'll give a sample. Well, right now or after.
You can do it whenever you feel you're ready.
Okay. I'll wait till we do it. I'll wait till the interview's done.
Okay, last question. Do you see yourself homeless for the rest of your life?
Oh, that's a quick no.
Quick no, okay. So where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Oh, in 5 years I do see myself up out of this situation here, being in this local fishing community, no longer being at the Salvation Army, the Volunteers of America, the Union Gospel Mission, or just this area, period. But where I see myself 5 years from now is back in a home, back to having my vehicle so that way I can resume doing my hauling, and also being in a home, you know, off the streets. So that's why I see myself 5 years from now, and of course finishing out my college courses so that way I can be able to take my AA. So I'm already halfway there, you know. So about another 5 more units or classes, then of course that'll allow me to get that AA. Then of course I can transition to Sac State, where you're at. I'm going to give you a little sample, and it's something that kind of helps me out during the day, throughout my time, or just period. And this is a gospel song that I partially wrote, still in process of finishing up.
Oh God, you give me the strength I need. Oh God, through all the trials that intervene in my life, God, and in the midst of my frailties, admitting that yes, I at times am weak. Oh God, oh, I don't want to let go of your connection. Oh God, for you are perfect in your created perfection, where you say obey your voice and walk in the way you commanded. All good things will be added to you, just like the beginning you planned it. Oh God, oh God, oh, oh God, oh God, yes.
And this is as far as I got on that.
My name is Marty Jo Walker, and I am at the shelter at Salvation Army Shelter for homeless women. They are a wonderful shelter. It's a 30-day shelter. It's also connected with Loaves and Fishes, which offers many opportunities to get your life together. They have Friendship Park, which offers breakfast in the morning. They have lunch. They feed over 600 to 800 people a day. There's the Delaney Center, which is a legal clinic there for you. Genesis, a mental health clinic. There's a library, a reading room. There's showers for the men, free haircuts and beard trims. And there's Mary House, which is a day shelter for the women. You can have your mail delivered there. You may shower there, get all kinds of hygiene, children's pampers, wipes, anything that you might need. They provide towels and shampoo and everything for your showers. There's rooms for you to sit and nap or read. It's the second time I've been to the shelters. 2011 was the first time, and I cannot say enough about the whole area. There's many people that are in need and many people on the streets, and it's real rough. So if you're on the streets right now, you can come to the Salvation Army and you can put your name on the list, check in every day at 1 o'clock, and within about a month you should probably be able to get in. You don't have to be on the streets anymore. Thank you.
So nobody loves me, nobody even cares. Seems that Mayor Johnson and the city council want the homeless to move anywhere, long as it's not next door to them. Not next door to them. Seems like I'm homeless, homeless everywhere I go. Here in Sacramento town, we're thrown from door to door. Every day I have the blues. Every day I have the blues. Maybe one day Mayor Johnson may find somewhere I can hang my shoes.